Because of the services that Transcat's brought to Terumo, keep in mind we make life-sustaining equipment. With the services that we do get from Transcat, we now have 100% total confidence in every measurement that we take. We are a medical device manufacturer, and as such, we're a regulated industry. Transcat doesn't just provide calibration services. They provide many additional services, and in addition to that, they understand risk, and risk is what we're all about. Having them have that understanding, we don't have to try to educate them and bring them up to that level. And because they do understand the regulations, they can help us make sure that the actions we take associated with metrology and calibration, that we're doing the right things and we ensure that we minimize the risk. Wow, that's a heck of a list there for us. Um, where to start? One, we've had numerous people come from Transcat come on site for us to help us with consultation. They've helped us rewrite procedures, two groups of procedures for us. One group was our actual procedures that oversee the calibration process itself, and then the procedures for actually calibrating equipment. We manufacture some of our own test equipment. As such, it's got to be calibrated. One of the situations we had was we had an 11-page calibration procedure written by our engineers. It was written for our equipment on how to calibrate it. We gave it to Transcat. Transcat reviewed it for us, and as politely as possible came back and educated us. There wasn't a single word in that 11-page procedure that had anything to do with calibration. So there's been a lot of consultation and a lot of education going on. So we've got the help and consultation with our procedures. We also have had them come on site. One of the areas that we weren't as strong as we needed to be was in regards to out of tolerance investigations. Anytime equipment's out of tolerance, we have to determine if there's any risk to our product or our process, and there are many steps in doing that, and Transcat came on site using our actual out of tolerance situations and did classroom training for our engineers. Very value added resource for us. I'd have to say it's a pretty awesome relationship, which is actually a rare thing for me to say when it comes to suppliers. It's a very mutual relationship. We both know we're in business to make money. That's what we do. But it's a very transparent, it's a very respectful, and I'm really impressed anytime we need any kind of service, any kind of help, there's any kind of issue at all, maybe something we don't understand. We contact Transcat, and their response time is amazing. It really is. And it's thorough, and it's a great relationship, which is, for me, probably the only time I think I've ever been able to say that with a supplier. There were actually, when we choosing Transcat to take over our calibration program, which is what we thought we were looking for a supplier to do, and there's a lot for me to explain there. We were initially looking for a supplier to take and do our calibrations for us. We found out there was a lot we didn't know. We had heard word of mouth in a few sites on the internet where people had mentioned Transcat, specifically a gentleman by the name of Howard Zion. So we started talking with Transcat. We sent some of our equipment to some multiple calibration houses to include Transcat, then sent that equipment to NIST. We consider NIST to be the ultimate as far as accuracy. Transcat, by far, their numbers were right on line with NIST. But more importantly for us, we invited Transcat to come in and do a one-day walkthrough and evaluate our documentation, our procedures, our calibration certificates that we were getting from different suppliers. We also had we had an on-site lab, we called it that, and they got to watch a calibration tech do a calibration. And Transcat didn't say a whole lot when they were walking through and looking at all this, so I really wasn't sure what their thoughts were. But when they gave us the presentation and they were able to show us that just about everything they saw had some negative aspect to it, But what really impressed us was how they were able to connect every negative aspect that they saw in our existing processes to risk. We're a regulated industry. We make life-sustaining devices. Risk is everything for us. And for them to be able to so easily show us the degree of risk that we were putting into our processes and product by our existing calibration processes, that was really impressive. That was probably the turning point for us in going with Transcat. As far as improvements go, or desired improvements with Transcat, I have to say the services that Transcat's provided us up to this point have been phenomenal. They really have. I hate to say that to the supplier, but it's true. With one exception, that would be the calibration database that I as a customer use called CalTrack Online. I've always felt it doesn't quite live up to the standard that all the other services do. And ironically, I'm here today because I came up to get 4 hours of training on the new and improved CalTrack Online called C3. And I'll tell you guys, it's awesome. Again, I shouldn't tell the supplier that, but it's awesome. It does far more things than I would have even thought that I needed it to do. And the bottom line for me is when I ended the training on it today, the last thing I said was, when can I have it? So now with the C3 that they're going to be putting out, that pretty much evens them out now. As far as I'm concerned, every service they offer to us is top-notch, highest quality. So other than CalTrack Online, there's really nothing else I can think of to improve. Outside of the calibration services that we use, let's see, we've had 2 services I can think of. Parts inspection. We had a situation with parts inspection. To be honest with you, we didn't even know that Transcat did that. We had a situation where we had a supplier that was doing parts inspection for us. The reports that they were supplying were not really of high quality. They told us 4 to 6 weeks turnaround time. It was taking up to 8 weeks. So kind of as a fluke, we called Transcat and said, hey, do you know anyone who does parts inspection? And Transcat goes, well, we do. I said, all right. So they gave us an example of their report, really a high quality, very detailed, exactly what we needed. We asked for a quote. They gave us a quote, very good price. So then we asked the dreaded question, what was the turnaround time going to be? And they said normal turnaround time is 3 weeks. And we thought, all right, let's see. We sent everything. It was a big job for us. On time, great report. Highly recommended. Really wish we knew they had provided that service before. And then another service we use from Transcat, it's really not related to calibration, is the equipment purchasing program. The equipment purchasing program was set up for 2 reasons. One, obviously the more volume we buy, we get some degree of discount. But that's really not as important to us as the fact that when we buy equipment, Transcat does the initial calibration. The benefit of the initial calibration is, should the calibration fail, and we've since learned that there can be anywhere from 8 to 10% of failures on mechanical, maybe a little less failures on electronic. When it fails calibration, we don't have to worry about it. It's not our problem. That's Transcat's problem. We haven't bought the equipment yet. It's not in our possession. That's a great advantage. We don't have to do any paperwork. We haven't purchased equipment that now we can't use. So that's a significant benefit, really, that's not associated with calibration.